Ladies and gentle gamers, welcome back to be determined. In today's video, we're going to be going over the brand new mining update, which added so much crazy cool stuff. And there is a little bit of changes, which we'll go over that are not so great. But if y'all enjoyed the video, please make sure to drop a like on it. Smash the sub button if you haven't already. We're already closing in on 15K subs, which is halfway to red name. So thank you guys so much for all the support. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So the first thing we'll talk about is, of course, the Forager. If you go in here and talk to him, you'll notice there are now 7 total slots if you have your Heart of the Mountain XP maxed. You unlock 1 new Forge slot at tier 3, 1 at tier 4, 1 at tier 5, 1 at 6, and 1 at 7. So you can now get up to 7 total slots, which is really nice. They also changed the recipes in here, so you have a recipe button where you can just go and look at all the recipes, even if your slots are full. And then if they're not full, you can always just go in here and see the same menu. But they split things up between refined items, between gear, and then there's perfect gemstones, foraging, which is just like plates and stuff, the different reforged stones, the pets, tools, drill parts, and all the other stuff, which is like keys and beacons and all that stuff. So this is definitely a W change. Really like all the stuff in here. There are also a ton of recipe adjustments and things, but we'll get to that in a moment, because right now, if you look at the top of the screen, there is a raffle event going on in the Far Reserve. So we're going to try and get some raffle tickets here so that I can show you what that really means, because all the events in Dwarven Mines now give so much better rewards. It's really nice compared to what it used to be, which was really just not worth participating in for the most part. But now if you go and get a bunch of raffle tickets in these events, or whatever the event is, as long as you're participating, you have a chance to drop some pretty awesome loot. And this is also one of the best new ways to get your hands on some mithril powder, because if you didn't see, they did change how you get mithril powder now. You no longer get it from the chests in the crystal nucleus, so you have to get it from actually just playing the game. But let's see if we can get a W here. We only have a 3.4% chance, so I doubt it. But yeah, even though we didn't win, we did manage to get 20,000 mining XP, 5,000 powder, and an item, which is this Dwarven treasure. Currently, it's not super expensive. It's selling for about 100k, so we'll just go ahead and insta sell that. But you can get some pretty cool items from this if we go ahead and look up the flow state enchant. This goes for about 3 million coins right now, and it is the new ultimate enchant that goes on drills. At max level, which is level 3, you can get up to 600 mining speed after breaking 200 blocks without taking any breaks for 10 seconds. So if you mine like 100 blocks and then you stop mining for 10 seconds, your thing is going to reset. So you want to make sure you're in the flow state, paying attention and actually mining. But you can also get something that they've added, which is for SkyBlock XP, the Dwarven O's, which I believe from this you get the Dwarven O's or Oats, which the first 5 times you consume this, gain a permanent 2 ore fortune. There are 3 different types of ore fortunes for this. So there's gemstone fortune, there is block fortune, and there's of course the ore fortune. And there's also the metallic fortune, the metal fortune. So basically what these work on, Dwarven metal fortune is for like mithril, titanium, tungsten, umber, and glaciite. The gemstones is of course for all gemstones. The blocks is for everything that's not an ore, like below an ore. So hardstone, cobblestone, sand, red sand, mycelium, netherrack, all that stuff is affected by this. And then there's the ores, which is for vanilla Minecraft ores like gold, lapis, redstone, all that stuff. And this is not the only place you get these now. If we go ahead and just look in my player stats and go to gathering stats, you can see there are a bunch of stats here. So mining speed is like normal. Now there is a new perk called mining spread. And since we have 305, every 100 is a guaranteed extra block broken. And as you can see, mining spread works on everything except for gemstones. Gemstones has a specific stat called gemstone spread, which at the moment doesn't really help because there's so little of it in the game. You can get a max of 15 gemstone spread if you're mining in the gemstone mine shafts with a good Heart of the Mountain tree, but at the moment it's very underwhelming, so I'm guessing there's going to be an update in the future to add some more gemstone spread. But pristine is a little bit different now as well. There's a bit more of it in the game because there for some reason is an extra 5 from a century cake, which if you actually claim the century cakes, it doesn't show that you get pristine. So I'm thinking that this is likely a bug, and in that case there's a little bit less pristine in the game, I believe, if this decides to get removed at some point. But I'm guessing that there will be a pristine cake at the next Century event, and they just accidentally added the stats from it before the event happened. So that is a thing for some reason. There's also your mining fortune, which you can see what we get everything from. A lot of stuff gives mining fortune, but then it's got your separate ore fortune, dwarven metal fortune, and your gemstone fortune here as well. So your mining fortune works on all of those, and then these specific fortunes work only on those specific sets of things. And that brings us to the next topic, which is the heart of the mountain, which has changed quite a lot. The tree is completely different than it was before. Mining speed comes before mining fortune now. I can't remember if it was always that way, but mining fortune got a pretty big nerf in Heart of the Mountain tree. There's a lot less fortune in the game, which means mainly gemstones get a little bit less because there's so much less gemstone spread. Everything else has the mining spread from all this other buffs, mainly efficient miner. So even though the fortune has gone down, you break 3 times or 4 times as many blocks. So it doesn't really matter on those. But since there's so little gemstone fortune and most of it's only in glaciate mine shafts, it's very, very not noticeable that you even have any gemstone spread at all. But they did change some stuff with the abilities. That's the main thing inside this tree. I'm going to do another video later on that will go in depth on the tree and the best trees to build for specific things like powder grinding or mine shaft grinding. So Picobulus now has a much lower cooldown, and your ability cooldowns are changed based on one of your drill parts, which is the fuel tank. So you can see my fuel tank is the titanium infused fuel tank, so I only get a 4% pickaxe ability cooldown. I believe with a max fuel tank you get 100,000 max fuel capacity and like a 10% pickaxe ability cooldown, so that part is a little bit nicer, gives you a little bit more incentive to go for a better fuel tank. But mining speed boost still has its normal cooldown of 120 seconds. So Picobulus is kind of buffed here. You can use it twice as often as the mining speed boost, so that's really, really nice. But you can see the trees changed a bit in here as well. There's gemstone fortune like usual, mining speed for gemstones like usual. Then there's ore fortune here on the left. And if we go up, the daily powder and the daily grind are right here. So these are the ones that you'll want to get for your powder grind. And then you also want this powder buff, which is still unlocked at tier 7. But then you've got all your other gear and stuff in here. Like always, they did add a subterranean fisher option, which basically hints that there will be an update to glaciate tunnels that adds some sea creatures in there at some point. And there's also the keep it cool, which adds heat resistance as an ability in here. Got your mining fortune, got your mining speed there. And then up top, it's the normal stuff. They added Miner's Blessing here, which is really nice for ghost grinders, but doesn't have too much place elsewhere. It's good for Skatha too, but other than those two things, it's not super duper useful. Then you've got your scraps, your mining speed on dwarven metals, gemstone spread, which at level 100 only gives 10 gemstone spread. Still kind of crazy in my opinion, but you've got the other stuff in here, you know, cold resistance. This is all pretty much the same as it has been. There is the pristine at the top. Once you hit Heart of the Mountain level 10 in the middle, you can get 1 extra pristine from that. Everything else is pretty similar. A lot of people really like this Maniac Miner perk down here, which is unlocked at Heart of the Mountain tier 6, which grants an extra breaking power and a stack of mining fortune, which caps at 1,000 per block broken for 30 seconds. So each block broken consumes 20 mana. It can get pretty powerful, give you a good chunk of fortune, but I've been using Picobulus all day to help break more gemstones so that I could get some more glossy gemstones from the fiestas, because without efficient miner working on gemstones, getting glossy gemstones has been nerfed by quite a lot, so that is one of the side effects of this update. But you will also notice that these different things cost different amounts, as in they cost different things than they originally did. Like these used to cost mithril powder, and now from tier 4 and above, these all cost gemstone powder now. So if you want a fully maxed out tree, most of the trees that I've seen require about 8 mil mithril powder to max out this stuff, and sometimes get, you know, decreased forge time, maybe luck of the cave. But then everything from Heart of the Mountain 4 to Heart of Mountain 7 is going to cost gemstone powder like it always did, and then Heart of the Mountain 8 and above costs glaciate powder as it always did as well. But the reason they did this is because you now unlock the crystal hollows at Heart of the Mountain tier 4 instead of Heart of the Mountain tier 3, so it takes a little bit longer to get to the crystal hollows. But I think the reason they did this is because they want you to grind mithril powder a little bit more in the dwarven mines before you get there, because again, you don't get mithril powder while you're in the Crystal Hollows unless you're deliberately mining mithril there. So mining mithril in the Dwarven mines and participating in the events every now and then is still the best way to get your mithril powder up, or it's now the best way to get your mithril powder up. But gemstone is the same as it always has been. Gemstone powder is actually twice as good as it was, because instead of mithril powder dropping from those chests in the Crystal Hollows, you now drop twice as much gemstone powder. So gemstone powder, I've seen people get like over 1 million powder per hour. So very much easier to max out your gemstone powder now. Glaciite powder, they also did buff the drop rates of powder from corpses. So glaciite powder is a lot easier to get your hands on as well. But let's go ahead and warp to the Crystal Nucleus, because there's a lot of cool stuff in here, specifically the new RNG meter for the Crystal Nucleus, which does include the Divan's Alloy, and is one of the new ways you can drop these new Dwarven O's. So you can also get these from the Dwarven Mines events, from killing Scathas, and from opening corpses in Glaciite mine shafts. They have a chance to be in Umber and Tungsten corpses specifically, so they don't drop from Lapis corpses. But also because of this Heart of the Mountain rework, by the way, if you log in today or you haven't logged in since the update, you may notice that you have like 10 less skyblock levels than you originally did. That's because they did reset everything in your Heart of the Mountain, including your Peak of the Mountain, which is now called Core of the Mountain. So you will have to level up your Core of the Mountain again to get that skyblock XP back. Nucleus runs have changed a little bit as well. If we look on Bazaar for Precursor, there is a Precursor apparatus now, which is basically crafted from all of the different parts. There's the control switch, the electron transmitter, FTX, synthetic, super light motor, and Robotron reflector, which let me just turn off this resource pack so you guys can kind of tell what I'm talking about. There we go. So these are all the things that you need to make one of the Precursor apparatuses, and you can also just hand this in to Professor Robot to complete your Sapphire Crystal quest. So you can get through that part of the quest like a couple seconds faster instead of having to hand him each individual piece. But unfortunately, Crystal Nucleus runs did get nerfed a little bit because Baal and Khazad-dûm, you now have to kill him before you get your crystal every single time. So you do have to wait for him to respawn, which can take like 5 minutes. So at the most, your runs will take 5 minutes. That's about as fast as they can possibly be. Whereas previously, they could be like 2.5 minutes, maybe even less. There is also a new accessory that they added with this update. If we go into recipe haste, there is the new haste artifact, which is just an upgraded version of the haste ring. It requires like double the cobble that this one did, but it gives haste 3, which is really good for dungeon players, specifically for Burrs and Healer in M7 or F7. If you guys do pre-dev or I4, you no longer have to swap to Silverfish Pet to be able to get haste 3, which is really, really nice. Before we go on, I did just want to talk about a couple of the bugs that are going on. There is currently a bug with farming fortune and the pig pet, so mainly right now, as far as I know, netherwort, carrots, wheat, and potatoes have like almost 0 fortune effect, and everything else, because of the pig pet, have like a permanent 25% farming fortune boost. So if you're farming anything that's not those 4 crops, you should be getting like 4% more farming fortune. Also, I did want to point out that there are the new pure ores, which are found in the royal mines and the dwarven mines, basically where all this gold normally spawns at. You can also find veins of lapis, of redstone. There's veins of emerald, diamonds, and iron, I believe. I think it's like basically every vanilla ore. So that part is really nice, but there is another bug that I wanted to talk about, which has something to do with this. Basically, right now, only vanilla ores are affected during fiestas, at least as of the most recent fiesta. They may have fixed it before this next fiesta starts, but as of right now, only vanilla ores are affected by the double drop rate in fiesta. So glaciite, tungsten, umber, mithril, titanium, gemstones, all of those don't get double drops. You can still get glossy gemstones and refined minerals from those things, but they do not have double drops. So one of the main strategies I've heard of, instead of mining those things, is to mine iron in this new area to actually make like over 100 mil an hour. That's what it made in the first fiesta. I'm sure it's going to drop midway, at least in the second fiesta, but that is a pretty good money method, at least until this bug is fixed. But if you're wondering what all the best reforges are, thankfully for armor, it is still jaded. They added a ton of new reforges and stuff. We're just going to go over the best ones today, but they did add a couple new reforges. I mean, Lustrous has been in the game for a while, but now Lustrous is the best reforge for pickaxes because it does grant extra mining spread during mining fiesta, and it gives more mining fortune now than it did, and it gives more than Dwarven Geode does. So definitely the best reforge now. There's also a new reforge for equipment, which is the Blazing Reforge. For every 1 heat you have, you gain an extra 0.05% chance to dig up worms. So The hotter you are, the better your Skatha rates will be. And it gives more mining fortune and heat resistance than any other reforge. If you're saying no, glistening gives more, it doesn't anymore. If we go ahead and look in the hex here and go to whichever one is glistening, it's somewhere in here, right here. You can see glistening now gives true defense instead of intelligence. So it's still really good if you're going to do Blaze Slayer, but other than that, it no longer gives fortune, so it's not actually the best reforge for your equipment anymore. Now we got to talk about some of the nerfs, mainly the Gemstone Gauntlet, which, as you can see, now has a breaking power of 8 and a mining speed of 910, which is mainly because I have efficiency. Without that, as a clean Gemstone Gauntlet, it only has 800. Now, if you want to change the speed on it, or the breaking power, there is a new Pocket Iceberg reforge that gives an extra breaking power, so if you really want to struggle through the update and not actually go back through and get your hands on a titanium drill and just struggle through the loss of mining speed with a Gemstone Gauntlet, you can do that. The Pocket Iceberg only requires like 5 Glaciite Jewels. The reason there's none on Bazaar is because it takes about 6 hours to forge, and the update only came out like 7 hours ago, so I don't think anybody has any extras lying around. So it will take you a little bit to get your hands on it, but it's only 5 Glaciite Jewels. Definitely worth it if that's what you want to do. But it does also have some new abilities, which is reduced to atoms. Killing mobs on mining islands charges the gauntlet meter. These mobs drop gemstones depending on your filled gemstone slots. If you have full perfects, they drop decent gemstones, but this is still not great. When the alpha first came out, this could make like a really good amount of money. Just killing mobs with the gemstone gauntlet got a ton of gemstones, but now it's a bit nerfed. It doesn't drop nearly as much money in gemstones as it once did. The gauntlet meter is still nice though, because when it's full, you can right click it and gain an extra 50 mining fortune for 60 minutes. So at the start of the fiestas and stuff, this is still nice to have, especially seeing as fiestas only last 2 hours now, so you'll be able to use it a lot more often, at least for half of the fiesta. That's still pretty solid. So it's definitely got a place in the game. It's just not really the ideal end game drill anymore. You'll also notice if you have like a Lapis armor set or something, they actually have a little bit of value to them now. They do give 20 mining speed and 2 mining fortune, so better than it once was, but still pretty bad. But they did buff a lot of different things with this. But one of the things they did nerf technically is the Bow Pet. Bow Pet got a pretty hard nerf, I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty rough. He no longer gives full heat immunity. He now gives 3 pristine while in magma fields instead of the 15% extra stats as well. So while in Crystal Hollows, killing mobs reduces your heat by 4 and you reduce pickaxe ability cooldowns by 10%. So he's still a very, very good pet. 110 mining fortune, 150 heat resistance, and 25 mining speed. Still a very, very good pet, but that is with a Bejeweled Collar, by the way, so he doesn't normally give the mining speed, and it's normally 100 mining fortune. But you see what I mean. It's still the best pet for gemstone mining, I would say. At least if you're on Iron Man or you're just selling to NPC, ruby mining is still very viable. You don't get heat immunity unless you're wearing heat armor, which is definitely not worth wearing. But if you have, you know, a full Devon's armor set, each piece gives 10 heat resistance now. So if you've got the full drip, you really don't gain heat that much. I think using a Bow Pet in this setup, I maybe gain heat like once every 4 to 5 minutes, maybe 2 every 4 to 5 minutes, but still. All you got to do whenever you're trying to ruby mine now is just fill up a bunch of water bottles and pop those in a backpack or something. And then when you're getting hot and about to overheat, you can just drink a water bottle and that'll reduce your heat by 10. So every water bottle you drink will probably save you like 20 minutes. So yes, Bow Pet mining is still viable, but you can tell the admins are definitely trying to buff the end game of mining, specifically inside mine shafts. They're trying to give extra fortune in mine shafts. They're trying to give extra speed in mine shafts. They really want people to be mining in the mine shafts. So I expect that the mine shafts are going to get buffed even more in the future. And it's still pretty solid. Outside of mine shafts, while you're spawning them, using a Skatha pet is very much worth it. The extra gemstone fortune on drills really helps a lot, and the just base mining fortune and mining speed is still really, really good. Of course, it's still the best for gemstone powder grinding, but let's be real, if you can afford a legendary Skatha, hopefully you've got a pretty good amount of powder grinding done already. But Glaciite Golem, still going to be the go inside of mine shafts. The extra mining fortune while in Glaciite mine shafts is pretty good, but the pristine from every frozen corpse you've looted is just better than any other perk, especially if you've got keys saved up to spend inside of the mineshaft. Now there's a lot of other stuff in this update, specifically Sorrow armor also, as well as other armors got some new requirements and stuff, so you have to be Heart of the Mountain tier 5 before you can use Sorrow armor now, and a lot of the requirements on a lot of things have been raised, so it is much tougher to get into the good money making parts of mining. It's still very worth it to do. It's just a lot harder to get into, at least as far as time consumption goes. You can't just buy a whole bunch of gems and then come in with 100 mil and just buy a really good setup. You actually got to grind out the Heart of the Mountain XP, got to grind out the powder and all that stuff still, and you actually need a lot more powder than you originally did. So hopefully they'll reduce some of the prices inside the Heart of the Mountain tree. If we go ahead and look at my XP and powder and stuff, I have 21.6 million total glaciite powder. And you can see I still have like 4 or 5 different perks in here, 6 perks in here that I wanted to max and I couldn't with 21 million powder. So hopefully they'll reduce the powder cost on a lot of this stuff. Like, this is just insane to have to do more than 21 million, but I guess we'll see in the future. I do think that's one of the biggest problems with this update. A lot of the other stuff I don't have too much issues with. I feel like Gemstone Gauntlet has been very overpowered for very long. You can still use it if you want to. 800 mining speed is a pretty substantial nerf, but they do have to where you can still use the breaking power, Reforge to use it on glaciite and things like that. So you still have the option to use it. It's just a lot worse than it was. Same thing with Pico Nimbus. Pico Nimbus now requires Heart of the Mountain 4 as well. And you can see that they break after 2,000 uses now. So it's definitely a much tougher item to use. And it's got only 750 mining speed. So its mining speed is even worse than Gemstone Gauntlet's is. But one of the best money making methods that is still in the game is actually gold mining in the Mines of Devon. It's just a little bit different than it was. I'll go in depth on all the money making methods in a future video probably. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to see that, but running 3/4 jaded is still meta. And if you can get your hands on the full gemstone gauntlet or full gemstone equipment set, it grants extra mining fortune while in the crystal hollows. So that's definitely the meta to use. I think the only other things you would want to use is Dwarven Handwarmers and maybe the Pendant of Devon if you've got one of those. But running that equipment setup with a Goblin Pet, which has been reworked, it now gives mining speed while mining ores, an extra 100 mining spread in the Mines of Devon. So it's still very, very good. 100 extra ore fortune too. Like, you can make between 30 and 40 million coins an hour while mining gold if you're using that. And Picobulus does not work in here, so you will actually have to use mining speed boost or some other ability in here to make sure you get some good money making potential. But they did not nerf the sell price of the gold like they originally had on the alpha. When the alpha first came out, they nerfed the sell price of gold to NPC by like 1 coin, so it was 3 coins per gold, and now it's 4 coins per gold as it always has been. So that is a pretty nice choice not to nerf it, so hopefully it stays that way. But if you have a Golden Dragon, they did also change how much you need to max out the Golden Dragon's perks. We go ahead and look at the G-Drag. You can see it grants 11.1 strength and 2.2 magic find to your pet for each digit in your gold collection. Used to max out at a bill. Now it maxes out at 100 mil, so it still takes a while to get, but it's literally 10 times easier to do, so a lot more viable to go for that than to go for 1 billion gold. But unfortunate for 30 virus and death streaks who already did it. Anyways, that's the main stuff in the mining update. I will do more in-depth videos on different parts of it and guides and everything. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. I will try and answer every single one as best I can. Also, the patch notes should be linked in the description if you want to read through them yourself. But I hope this was informative and helpful, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have an amazing rest of your day, and God bless.